Hi guys, welcome back to the Hall of Style. I'm Jen. Today I want to talk about perfumes that transition perfectly from summer into fall. We're at the end of August now, heading into September, and I'm looking for perfumes at this time to wear that still have sort of a freshness about them because it's still pretty warm here, but I'm starting to get ready for the fall vibes, right? We're all seeing like the pumpkin spice lattes are appearing. We're seeing the Halloween stuff coming into the stores. So I am sort of getting that itching about having the fall season coming upon us and getting excited for football and hockey and all sorts of things that start to come in the fall. So I want to look for perfumes that match with that have a little bit of that fall feeling, maybe a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of amber, something that creates a little bit of a warmth, but I don't want it to be too cloying or like too much. I'm not ready for something that is super sickly sweet because it's still pretty warm. So that's what we're talking about today. 10 different fragrances that fit in this category perfectly. All of these are fragrances that I bought with my own money, so today is not a sponsored video. And I have timestamps down below so you guys can skip around and look at the perfumes that you're interested in. So the first perfume on my list that I'm talking about today is Byredo's Gypsy Water, which I have in this little travel sized perfume oil, but I'm also very familiar with the actual EDP itself. It's a longtime fave of mine. And the thing I love about this fragrance is this is something you could really wear year round. This is like signature scent territory. It's very easy to wear all the time. But the thing that I like about this is it sort of has this magical forest feel. Like it has this sort of like sparkly, ambery feel, a little bit of like a powdered vanilla sugar vibe, which you guys know by now that I love, but it also maintains a freshness. So it's very easy to wear when the weather is sort of transitioning. You can wear it on a hotter day that's a little bit muggy. You could also pull it off on a day that's a little bit cooler. So, a little bit more information about Gypsy Water. It was released in 2008. It is an EDP formulation usually, but like I said, I have it in this perfume oil, so it does come in a couple of different formulations. The nose for this perfume is Jérôme Epinette, and the official notes from Byredo's website, the opening has bergamot, juniper berries, lemon, and pepper. The heart is incense, orris, or you may know as iris, pine needles, and the dry down is amber, sandalwood, and vanilla. So this perfume, despite the name sounding maybe a little odd, it is actually supposed to be a respectful ode to the Romani people. It's supposed to sort of capture this sort of nomadic lifestyle and celebrate that. And it is supposed to be something that is respectful and a celebration of their life. To me, this perfume has this beautiful, sort of sparkly feel to it. It feels to me like you're kind of in this magical forest. It's been maybe raining, and then the sun comes out, and you sort of have this like pine needle vibe, a little bit of a resinous, like ambery vibe. And there's also this really yummy vanilla powdered sugar vibe. I would almost describe this as like you are sitting in a magical fairy forest and you're about to eat a puff pastry that is very sweet and covered in powdered sugar. Like, I get all these vibes about it that just feel so cozy, but like also fresh forest at the same time. I think the combination of notes here is genius. I love the way that this smells, and I feel like it is just super addictive. I hear a lot of complaints in the fragrance community about Byredo's performance. I don't know if most people have just kind of gone nose blind because they prefer stronger, more beast mode fragrances. But for me, I have always had such great luck with Byredo's fragrances. I feel like they last a long time. I have a very noticeable scent bubble around me when I'm wearing them. People are always asking me, "What are you wearing?" Back when I worked in an office, people were like, "Oh, I can smell your perfume all the way down the hallway." Like, it's so funny to me that people complain of Byredo fragrances being so mellow or non existent or they fade so fast. It really hasn't been my experience, but I'm curious for you guys, like, what do you think? Like, have you had experiences like me where you think the performance is great? Or are you like some of the other people that are just like, oh my gosh, it's so wimpy or whatever? I'm really curious to know because I feel like I read that on, reviews and it just hasn't been my experience at all. So I just love Gypsy Water. It's works great for me. It's one that I always want to keep in my collection. I think it's so versatile and so easy to wear all the time. So yeah, it's a winner for me for sure. And I think it's great for this time of the year. Okay, the next fragrance on my list is Diptyque's popular fig fragrance, Philosykos, which I have here in an EDT. It's also available in an EDP formulation and a ton of other products. I love this fragrance so much, you guys. I'm a huge fan of fig perfumes and fig fragranced items. It's one of my favorite scents, and it's perfect for this time of the year because this is when figs are really in season and they're so yummy. I love getting a little container of figs from the market, and they're just so great to put on your cheese plate and just to like munch on raw. I mean, they're just so delicious. So, a little bit more information about Philosykos. Both the EDT and the EDP formulations were released in 1996, so this has been around for a while. The nose is Olivia Giacobetti. The official notes from Diptyque's website are fig leaves, fig tree sap, fig tree wood, and black pepper. And another note that a lot of people perceive in this fragrance, myself included, is coconut. It has sort of a coconut milk kind of a vibe to it as well. So, fun factoid, Philosykos means friend of the fig tree in Greek. And I definitely would say this is a great representation of a fig fragrance. It smells perfect to me. It smells just like fresh figs and also has that really yummy coconutty vibe. It's very clean. It has a bit of a greenness to it, as you might expect, since it says, it contains the fig leaves and all the parts of the fig tree. So you get a little bit of a greenness with this. If you want a little bit of a deeper feel, you can go for the EDP, which is very, very similar, but it's just a little bit deeper, a little bit more woodsy. This fragrance is going to be a little bit lighter. We were talking about how Byredo, people complain that it's too light. I would say for me, I have more of a problem with Diptyque's fragrances. I wish they were a little bit stronger and that they lasted a little bit longer. They are such good quality fragrances, and I love the scents that they have so much. But I do find, and maybe it's just a chemistry thing, but I do find for me, they fade a little bit quicker than I would prefer. But they're so good that I kind of just put up with it because I really like so many of their perfumes. They're just such a masterful house, and this is no exception. This is such a good fragrance. If you love the smell of figs, I really, really recommend trying this one out. As I mentioned earlier, this fragrance comes in a ton of other products. It's one of their most popular fragrances, and I have a bunch of things. I have this lotion, this hand lotion, which matches really well with the fragrance. You can kind of layer the two. They also have an entire candle set with a fig scent that is very, very similar to the perfume. This is kind of a cool pop art limited edition candle that I got a while back from them. And yeah, it's so good. It's so good and fresh and clean. I love it. And then one of the favorite products I have from this line is they call this a scented oval. And it's kind of like a fancy sachet, basically. So if you have like a sock drawer, or I use it in my linen closet, and it kind of scents your clothes or your linens or whatever and makes it have like a nice, fresh, clean scent. And this was a little bit more pricey than buying a sachet, but it has lasted forever. I have had this for 3.5 years, and yeah, it still smells great. I can still smell it when I open my linen closet. It's like I get this lovely, fresh fig fragrance. So it's very high quality, even though it is a little pricey up front. I think it's a very good quality product that lasts for freaking ever. Okay, so next up on my list is Golden Hour. And this perfume is found at Anthropologie. It's from their Nostalgia line. I have to wonder if any of you guys know, let me know, but is it created by the same people that do Le Monde Gourmand? Because it looks really similar. Like their packaging is so, so similar to me. The labels are super similar. The Anthro has the gold cap and Le Monde Gourmand has the silver cap, but the labels are so, so similar. I don't know if you guys can see, but they're so similar that I'm kind of wondering if maybe it's the same house is responsible. But either way, they're all fun and good perfumes to try. So, of course, a perfume named Golden Hour is perfect for this time of the year. You know, we have these beautiful sunsets in August and September. You're starting to notice that it's getting dark a little earlier, which is kind of a bummer. But the sunsets around this time of the year are usually so pretty, and they've done a good job sort of capturing that feeling in this fragrance. I don't have a ton of information on this particular fragrance. If you go onto Anthro's website, it's pretty much not a lot of info. I don't see what year it was released. I don't see who the nose was. It does say that it's an EDP formulation, and it does list some notes. It says that it has white almond, jasmine sambac, and cashmere musk. This perfume to me is sort of has a feeling of being like in a field of sunflowers or something when the sun is going down. It's very cozy while also being fresh, which of course is what we're looking for in the fragrances for this time of the year. And it has sort of a like sunflower slash wildflower, a little bit of like kind of dried grass or maybe hay kind of a vibe. It just feels very like outdoorsy and clean and like almost like you're going into harvest time, but kind of just before that. It's still warm out, it's still kind of cozy, and you can be outside when the sun's going down and you're just starting to maybe think about putting on a light sweater or something. It's a touch vintage in feel almost to me. I almost feel like there's a smell of like kind of like faded lace or something. I don't know why. For some reason, it just brings that feeling to me. It's probably the cashmere note that's in here, you know, that can have kind of a bit of a linen feel or kind of remind you of that impression. I would say this perfume's kind of mild, gentle. It's slightly lotiony. Despite the notes, I don't get a ton of almond impression with this or a ton of jasmine. I believe that jasmine is here for sure, but it's not like usually when I think of jasmine sambac, I think of something that's more sweet, more heady, and a little bit more musky. And this really isn't like that. It's more of like a mellow lotiony kind of a vibe. You are getting some delicate feminine florals. And like I said, you kind of get that sort of sunflower or wildflower vibe. It's very mellow. There's a slightly solar feel to it. It's almost like a little bit of a not really sunscreen, but like I said, you do get that feeling of like maybe flowers kind of starting to dry in the sun, like you're getting towards the end of summer and the flowers are starting to get that kind of dried feel. I get that kind of vibe from it overall. If you love this fragrance, it comes in a bunch of other products on Anthropologie's website, which is cool. They have a travel spray size, they have a shimmering salt hair mist, a body cream, a body mist, body oil, and a candle. And I've also sometimes seen home diffusers in case you can't light candles, but you still want to get that kind of scent. I've seen those on Anthropologie's website from time to time as well. So it comes in a lot of other products, which is kind of cool. Has anyone tried this or any of the other fragrances from this line, this nostalgia line from Anthropologie? Let me know. Also, let me know if you think it's similar vibes with the Le Monde Gourmand, or if you think that maybe it's the same house that's created these, because they do have such a similar look. There's slight differences, but they're really, really similar looking. So it makes me wonder if they were either created by the same place or if somebody was copycatting the other. Okay, guys, the next fragrance I want to talk about is by one of my favorite houses, Floral Street. And I only have this one in a decant, but it is a goodie. This is Sunflower Pop. And it, of course, is perfect for this time of the year. Again, we're thinking about wildflowers and sunflowers and the sunset going down, and sunflowers are just blooming like crazy this time of the year. So this is the perfect time for a sunflower scent. Okay, so a little bit more information about Sunflower Pop. This fragrance was released in 2021. It is an EDP formulation. The nose, again, is Jérôme Epinette, who is one of my favorite noses. He is such a great perfumer, and he does fragrances for most, if not everything, by Byredo, most, if not everything, from Floral Street, and most, if not everything, for Wilhelm. The official notes from Floral Street's website are bergamot, mandarin, bellini accord, passion fruit, plum blossom, blue orris, vegan honey accord, and crisp amber. And there's also a musk note that is perceived here. One thing that's kind of extra cool about this fragrance is it was a collaboration with the Van Gogh Museum, and your purchase of this fragrance supports the work of that museum. So I think that's pretty cool. And as you can see, the artwork is really beautiful for this particular bottle. I actually think the artwork on all of the Floral Street fragrances is very cool. It's really gorgeous. Usually, floral is kind of their vibe, right? Floral Street. But it's usually these beautiful depictions of different florals and different flowers. And I think they've done an excellent job yet again with this beautiful bottle. There's a lot to love with this fragrance. The notes are so good, and I really detect pretty much everything that they've got listed here. I get really beautiful, gentle florals with a lightly sweet citrus impression. Definitely sense the passion fruit. The bellini also is noticeable, but it's not boozy. It's not like some strong boozy kind of, mixed alcohol drink that you're getting. It's more about the fruitiness of the bellini, and I definitely get those kind of vibes. I could see bellini or a mimosa or a screwdriver, but again, kind of maybe like a virgin version, and kind of minus the boozy vibe. There's a clean musk here that's super pleasant. The citrus here is not screechy or too sharp. It's really palatable. I could see honey being part of this picture, but it's more of like a mellow, like honey blossomed feel, and not anything that's like too thick or heavy or like syrupy. I get some light, sweet, ambery vibes, and there's a very gentle earthiness that does bring to mind the feel and smell of a sunflower. When I tried this, my husband told me he thought that it had sort of a fresh, watery vibe to it, and I can agree with that. Overall, I feel like this is fresh, it's uplifting, it's sunshiny, it just feels happy. This is a very happy, easy to wear perfume that I think will make you feel uplifted and just kind of, ready to face your day, kind of light on your feet and ready to go. This might be a fun one for you to try if you loved Elizabeth Arden's sunflowers back in the day. There are definitely two different fragrances, but if you loved that vibe of sunflowers and you wanted something that's like more, updated and new and fresh, I think you should give Sunflower Pop a try and see what you think. Okay, guys, next on my list is Ellis Brooklyn Apple Love, which I also have in a little decant. And I'm a huge fan of Ellis Brooklyn. It's one of my favorite perfume houses, and I think they've done a great job here of capturing a really good apple fragrance. It's a no-brainer that we're thinking about apples as we're heading into September. We're starting to come to the end of the berries and the stone fruits and all of those kind of summer fruits that we've been enjoying. Starting to get into apple season. You think about bringing an apple to your teacher on the first day of school, or perhaps baking an apple pie or making some sort of apple crisp or goodie like that as we're getting further into fall. So it's perfect for this time of the year. So here's some further information on Apple Love. It was released last year in 2023, so fairly new fragrance. It is an EDP formulation, and the nose was Pierre Negrin. The notes from Ellis Brooklyn's website, the opening is red apple, mandarin sfuma, peach skin. The heart is plum blossom, osmanthus, muguet, which is lily of the valley, and sugar cane. And in the dry down, you get sandalwood, Madagascan vanilla, praline, ambrox, which is ambroxan, and musks. And this one, I think they've done a really good job of straddling the line of fresh and fruity and making it feel very fresh and uplifting and easy to wear on a hot day, but still you get these cozy vibes where you start thinking about, okay, this could be going into like an apple pie territory or something that is a little bit more cozy at the same time. I get a lot of fruitiness with this. It's sweet and yummy. I do get that sort of powdered vanilla sugar vibe that I love and I talk about all the time. It reminds me a little bit of a fruity pixie stick. Remember pixie sticks from we were little kids? It kind of has that a little bit of that vibe going on for me. I definitely get the overall fruitiness from peach, apple, orange. It definitely has a very good, like, fruity vibe that is sweet and has sort of a fruit salad kind of a feel to it. Sugar cane definitely makes sense. You get a lot of sweetness with this. There's a little bit of a kind of vetiver vibe. When I first spray this on, and for the first, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes as it's starting to dry down, I get something that's a little bit more earthy and kind of dry hay, sort of like a vetiver feel, but that doesn't last. That will dissipate and then it becomes fruity, like completely, like whether you're up close or it's from arm's length, you're really getting that fruity, fresh apple vibe. Definitely notice the bright citrus here, and you really get a sweetness that it has that Ellis Brooklyn DNA. My favorite fragrance from this house is Sweet, which I have in a little travel spray, and it has sort of that same vibe. Sweet is actually a pear fragrance. So it has a lot of the sweet powdered sugar that I talk about, that vanilla powdered sugar with pear. It's very fresh. It's very sweet. I would say that Sweet is aptly named. It is even sweeter than Apple Love is, but they're in a little bit of a similar family. Certainly not identical twins by any stretch, but they do feel, kind of have that similar DNA. So I think if you liked one, you would probably like the other. If you're thinking, oh, this would be really good if they made this more apple and just like a little bit deeper, then this is going to be like your jam for sure. Let me know if you've tried Apple Love. Let me know if you've tried any of these. I'd love to know what you guys think. If you've tried any of these, if you agree with me that this is a good time of the year to wear these, let me know what you think. I would love to hear what you guys think about these. Okay, guys, next on my list is Sun Kissed Dahlia by Skylar. This is another sort of getting into that apple vibe kind of a feel, but still fresh, but very fruity and starting to feel like a little bit of a fall fruit feel. This one was also released last year in 2023. It is an EDP formulation, and I'm not sure who the nose is on this. So if you guys know who did this perfume, who created it, let me know. The official notes from Skylar's website, the opening is pink currant, meme sapote, and apple. The heart is dahlia, jasmine blossom, and rose petals. And the dry down is vanilla custard, yummy, sandalwood, and amber. And this is obviously a great time of the year for dahlias. They are blooming like crazy around here. We have this really cool rose garden nearby that also has a large dahlia garden, and it's so fun to go and see all of the different varieties. There are so many different kinds of dahlias, and they're all just beautiful. This is an interesting perfume because for me, it really had three distinct layers and sort of changed and morphed throughout the fragrance. So it was kind of interesting. When I first sprayed it on, it was very sweet and young feeling. It actually reminded me a lot of a like Viva La Juicy kind of a vibe, or like Victoria's Secret, like the Tease line. It had that sort of a feel, like it was young, flirty, fun, very sweet, very just like, fun loving and casual and easy to wear. As it dries down and the mame sapote kind of comes into play, it has this sort of interesting, like brown sugar crisp fruit feel or something. It's really interesting. I wasn't familiar with this note, so I had to kind of do some research on it. It wasn't something that I was super familiar with, but it was actually really interesting the way I saw it described several different ways. And it was compared to a fruity marzipan with hints of cherries and squash. It was compared to apricots, raspberries. It said that it had brown sugar vibes, or could be like a brown sugar covered sweet potato, notes of pumpkin, caramel, cantaloupe. Also saw it compared to almond, which kind of goes back to the marzipan thing. So I thought that was really interesting. I really learned something about, a fruit that I'm not familiar with around here. It looks like it is cultivated a lot in Mexico and Central America. And also the Caribbean. So kind of interesting. I learned something new. I'm always learning lots when I'm discovering new fragrances and new fragrance notes that maybe are not something that in my neck of the woods I'm familiar with, but in other countries or even in other parts of the United States, people, use all the time and are super familiar with. So I learned a lot by doing this research. So as it's drying down, the apple's really coming out, that mamey is really coming out, and it gets very cozy. It sort of reminds me of like a sweet apple pie with a little bit of autumnal spice to it. There's sort of a yummy vanilla amber undertone, and I can definitely see that brown sugar covered sweet potato comparison. It does have that kind of a vibe to it. There's a slight almondy marzipan-y vibe. It's not super strong with that, but it is there. It is kind of lightly there, and I love that. I love the scent of almond. I love marzipan. So I really enjoy that facet of it. There is a freshness going on as well. So it's cozy and it's like this apple pie or this brown sugar pie, but there is also a freshness. It's not like super sickly sweet, although there is a sweet fragrance. It's not, it wasn't too much for me, but of course I like sweet fragrances. So just keep that in mind. It is sweet, but I didn't find it too much or too sickly for my personal taste. And then I kind of mentioned how there were like 3 distinct sort of like layers to this perfume. And in the last one, it becomes a little bit more sort of spicy. I almost feel like it's a little bit licoricey. It's a little earthy and woodsy, and it gets a little bit less fruity. And so you get more of just that fall spice, but also some woods and more of those like deeper, cozy feels. This does remind me of some other kind of cozy apple pie fragrances. If you think of maybe by Killian's Apple Brandy on the Rocks, or if you think of Nobele 1942, La Danza de la Bellule, the dragonfly fragrance. It has those sort of vibes where it will remind you a little bit of that like cozy apple pie feel. It was a fun fragrance to experience. It definitely took me on a little bit of a journey, and it was a really good one. So I really liked this one. All right, next on my list is Be Extra Delicious by DKNY. This is from the Be Delicious line, of course. And I'm kind of sticking with the apple theme just a little bit longer here. This one to me smells like caramel apples. It's perfect for that vibe of you're going apple bobbing or you're at a party and they have those caramel apple on a stick kind of a vibe. It has that kind of a goodness and yummy quality to me. This, of course, is a flanker in the popular DKNY Be Delicious line. This flanker came out in 2020. It is an EDP formulation, and I believe the nose is Alberto Morales. The notes for this fragrance are fresh pear, gardenia, and caramel. And there's some other notes perceived for this fragrance. I get a little bit of magnolia, and I also get a little bit of pepper. And I have heard other people suggest black currant, freesia, bergamot, peony, heliotrope, lily of the valley, raspberry, and ambroxan. So a lot of a lot of different thoughts on some notes that could be in here besides the 3 that are just listed on the box. This fragrance to me is so yummy. It has this delicious sort of slightly burnt caramel vibe to it. It's really strong on that caramel, and with that signature apple fragrance that you get with the DKNY Be Delicious line, it really just reminds me of a caramel apple. It's so good. It's sweet, but really still fresh at the same time. If you love the Be Delicious line, if you love that freshness, that cleanness that it has, but you're thinking, oh, that would be really good with a little bit of caramel mixed in, this is a really good one to try because that's exactly what it does. You still get that freshness from the original Be Delicious, but with this extra sweet, yummy caramel goodness. And if you're like me, where you love clean fragrances and you also love gourmands and you love caramel, like that combination for me is just so, so, so good. Because this fragrance is an EDP, I think the performance is pretty good. Although I don't struggle with the regular Be Delicious with performance at all. I have found that it lasts pretty well for me, like throughout the day. And this also has good lasting power. It's not super overpowering where you're gonna like take over the whole room, but it's easy to wear and you will have this nice scent bubble around you that you enjoy. And I think it's probably not going to be offensive to very many people. It's just easy going. And I think you could probably wear it to work. It's maybe a little bit sweet, but if you're used to wearing the regular Be Delicious to work and you wanted a little bit of a, different spin on it, I think you could get away with this. All right, I'm going back to the house of Skylar for a moment. Next on my list is Boardwalk Delight by Skylar. And I think this fragrance is perfect for this time of the year because it has these sort of cotton candy vibes that remind me of kind of into the summer, like last hurrahs, going to the boardwalk, but also as you're heading into fall and you start having like the country fairs and that type of fun thing going on. And at both of these places, you're going to find these sort of sweet treats like cotton candy and funnel cakes and all of those kind of yummy fair sweet treats that we all enjoy. A little bit more information on Boardwalk Delight. It was released in 2022. It is an EDP formulation, and I'm not sure of the nose for this one, so let me know if any of you guys know who the nose is. The official notes from Skylar, the opening has an aquatic accord, a watery apple, and a juicy raspberry sorbet. The heart is water lily, guava flower, and coconut milk. And the dry down is cotton candy, vanilla, solar amber, and musk. So I love perfumes that smell like cotton candy. You guys know at this point that I am a gourmand lover. I love sweet vanillas. I love vanillas that smell like cotton candy. It's one of my favorite genres, and Skylar has done a really good job here with this one. It also has a lot of cleanness and freshness to it. I saw someone compare it to a cross between cotton candy at a fair and clean laundry dryer sheets. And I 100% agree with that assessment. It has some really fresh notes. The water lily is very, very fresh. And it almost gives you the vibe of sort of a lily of the valley kind of dryer sheet feel. And it matches really well with the cotton candy. That sweetness with that fresh cleanness is a favorite genre for me. So I really enjoy that kind of a vibe. The solar vibe will give you almost kind of a doll head type impression. And it's a little bit synthetic, but not in a bad way. It sort of has this nostalgia vibe for me that reminds me of like, I don't know, maybe like a strawberry shortcake doll, maybe like the raspberry one. I've forgotten what her name was, but it has that sort of a playful, fun, casual vibe to it. It's not identical twins, but it does remind me a little bit of Maison Margiela's replica line when they had Funfair Evening, which is such a good fragrance. I was so bummed when they discontinued that. And I have a decant of that, but if you're kind of craving that sort of a vibe, then this will work. It's not, like I said, it's not going to be an identical twin, but it does have some sort of similar vibes to that. Side note, I have the new Maison Margiela replica Afternoon Delight on the way, so stay tuned for a review on that very, very soon. So excited to try that. It's supposed to smell like a Madeline cookie and have lots of vanilla, so I'm pretty thrilled to try that because I think it's been a while since the replica line has had a gourmand, so very excited to try that soon. All right, next up for me is Chloe Nomad. This is the original Nomad. They've come out with a bunch of different flankers, but this is the original one, which I have in this cute mini. And this one to me, what puts it on the list is that I sort of get these vibes of festy girls, like someone who's going to like Coachella. And I sort of picture this like Alexis Rose type character where you're dressed in all these like sort of raggedy clothes, but they cost like $1 million. And just being very carefree and sort of having this nomadic spirit and just sort of kind of throwing caution to the wind. I don't know, there's something about this fragrance that just brings me to that sort of a vibe. It's kind of cool. It's actually based on the Chloe Drew bag, which of course is $1 bazillion and hard to get, but it's kind of a cool little design. And I really enjoy this fragrance. It's one of the few chypras that I really like. Chypras are usually not a genre that I'm super drawn to, especially these days now that they make so many of them with patchouli and they'll have like kind of a patchouli rose combo. It's not my most favorite genre. So this is one of the rare chypras that really drives with me. I really like it a lot. Some more information on Nomad. It was released in 2018. I have the EDP formulation here, but it also comes in an EDT. And the nose on this one was Quentin Biche, an amazing perfumer. And the official notes from Chloe's website, the opening is Maribel Plum. The heart has freesia, and the dry down is oak moss, which is in the more traditional chypra fragrances. And there are some other notes perceived here as well. I saw bergamot mentioned, lemon, orange, peach, jasmine, rose, patchouli, amberwood, white musk, and sandalwood. So it seems there are a lot of feelings about this having more notes than just what's listed on Chloe's website. And I agree with that assessment. There's a lot more going on here. There's definitely patchouli in the dry down with this one. So you guys really need to be aware of that because I know that patchouli is a deal breaker for quite a few people. So if it's something that you're sensitive to, you're definitely going to get that with this. So just kind of beware. It opens up really, really fruity. It's really nice. It's this perfect combination for me of the fruit and I get a very leathery vibe, but it's like a smooth, like almost like a suede, like a buttery suede. Like it reminds you of the Drew bag. It reminds you of that sort of very like expensive handbag kind of a smell. It's a bit earthy from the patchouli and the oak moss, but it's also quite clean. There's almost a soapy vibe to it as well. And I would say if you like the fragrances, sort of like the Miss Dior line, the ones that have the patchouli in it, or maybe Coco Mademoiselle, something that has like the fruitiness with the patchouli, if you like that sort of juxtaposition of the sweet fruits with that sort of earthy vibe, I think this is probably a really good one for you to try. I would say that the dry down here, you do get a lot of the patchouli, you get more of that leather. It's earthy, it's a little bit herbal. I've seen a lot of men who like this fragrance too. It's quite unisex and quite easy for men to wear as well. So it's one of those things that if you're a guy and you notice that your partner has it and you're like kind of like, I don't know about that. That looks like a girly perfume. Give it a try. You might be surprised. This is very easy, I think, for anyone to wear. Another thing I really like about this fragrance is it's incredibly long lasting. With that patchouli, with these heavy base notes, it really gives it a ton of lasting power. It's got good projection. It's not a screamer that's going to blast out the room, but it is very noticeable. People will smell it on you for sure. So I think if you like a fragrance where you're going to be noticed and people are going to smell you and it's going to last, I mean, you can spray this on in the morning. You're definitely going to smell it all through the night into the next morning. It lasts forever, which is great, which also all of those things make it another good perfume to wear to a festival. Because if you're going to be outdoors, you're going to want that kind of stronger perfume that, you know, when you have open air around you, that people can still smell it, that you can still smell it, and that it's going to last a long time while you're partying into the night. All right, guys, last but not least, the beautiful Dama Bianca by Zirjoff from their Casa Murati line. I love this fragrance. It is so, so good. It to me is signature scent worthy for sure, but it has kind of those similar vibes of Gypsy Water to me with the powdered sugar, with the sort of sparkly effervescent feel. It's just so, so, so good. So easy to wear, so beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's so good, you guys. I just love this one. And I just had to feature it on here because I feel like this time of the year is perfect for this fragrance. It's still light and powdery and airy, but it has a coziness about it that is just so great. And I mean, the packaging is beautiful. This is only the 30 mil. The larger one is even more beautiful with the tassel and the whole thing. And just the packaging is to die for. It's so gorgeous. So, Xerjoff, they just do it right, right? It's classy, it's high class all the way, and their fragrances are just so good. So this one has been out for a little while. It was released in 2012. It is an EDP formulation. I am not sure who the nose is on this one. Let me know if you guys know. I'm curious if maybe it's Chris Maurice, who also did Lyra, because they do have a sort of similar vibe to me. Like I can definitely see their sort of sister sense. So, anyways, let me know if you guys know that information. The official notes from Xerjoff's website, the opening has lime, Chinese kumquat, and Florentine iris. The heart is Egyptian jasmine, lily of the valley, violet, and lilac. And the dry down features cedarwood, white musk, Indonesian sandalwood, and vanilla beans from Zanzibar. This fragrances focuses very much on all of those purple florals. You really get the powdery vibes from the violet and the iris. It has a little bit of a sweet, powdery vanilla violet candy kind of a feel. It's slightly vintage, but like in the best way possible. I would call it more classic than vintage. It just feels very classy and feminine. It has an airiness to it. It's so, so, so pretty. I would call this fragrance delicate, light. It's definitely a lighter, more intimate fragrance. You're not going to be filling the room with this. I know some people have complained for both this and Lyra that they don't last as long as people would like, but I think it's kind of worth it. I kind of put up with it anyways because I love this fragrance so much. It is just gorgeous. I have Lyra in a 30 mil as well, and I think they just go hand in hand so well. You can layer them. They're just both so, so good. If you've tried one but you haven't tried the other, I highly recommend trying both because they're different enough that you can own both like I do, but they're in a similar enough vein that if you're like, well, I really like this one, but I want something just slightly different that's like still going to give me the same kind of feel, that feminine, like really airy, kind of powdery, pretty sweetness, but just in a slightly different direction. I think, they're both great to try. It also reminds me a bit of Byredo, unnamed. As you can see, I have named mine Forever Green as a little nod and ode to the Pixies, Velouria. But it's kind of cool. This one, they give you your own letters and you can name it whatever you want. So I named mine Forever Green. So if you like unnamed and you like Lyra, I think that Dama Bianca is going to be a slam dunk. It is sort of somewhere in between the two of them, and all three of those fragrances, by the way, are fabulous. You can wear them year round, but all of them are great for this time of the year as well. One last cool factoid about Dama Bianca. It is featured in a Duran Duran video. How fun is that? They have the song called Black Moonlight, and it sort of has these like funky Halloween, like seance vibes to it. It's really interesting. If you like kind of like horror movie genre or like that kind of like mystery that's kind of freaky old mansion with like a seance or like a Ouija board or whatever. If you like that kind of vibe, you'll want to check out this video. It's like really spooky and crazy. Well, that's pretty much it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this list. Perhaps you found something new that you haven't tried before. Let me know what you think. If you've tried any of these fragrances, I would love to hear what your take is on the ones that I've recommended, and if you agree with me or if you disagree, or let me know what your favorite fragrances are for this transitional time between summer and fall. I would love to hear what you think and why that you think a certain perfume is just perfect for this time of the year. I'm so interested to see what others think. Don't forget to head on over to my website, thehallofstyle.com. I have some great both late summer and fall fragrance articles over there. I have an awesome best apple perfumes fragrance list over there that I would love for you guys to check out. And I'm thinking there's a good chance that might be my next video, is to do that list, but on here on camera, so you guys can see all of the wonderful apple fragrances that are so great for this time of the year. I mentioned a few of them today, but there are so many more that are so good, and they're definitely all worth checking out. They all have their place. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care, guys.